Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Suplex Report. Get ready for all things WWE, news, match analysis, and more. Hit that bell so you never miss the action. The WWE Universe witnessed a seismic shift on Raw when Seth freaking Rollins made a shocking, unannounced return that shattered the Vision's sense of control. Without warning, Rollins tore through the crowd and launched a relentless assault on Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed, instantly turning the balance of power on its head. His return wasn't about speeches or redemption, it was about retaliation. Paul Heyman's stunned reaction said everything. The Bloodline's careful plans had just been disrupted by the one man they least expected. The war has officially erupted, and its first counterstrike was unforgettable. Night dominated by the Vision's growing influence. Monday Night Raw opened with a sense of uneasy dominance spread across the arena, as if every fan in attendance understood that the Vision had begun tightening its grip week by week. Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed stood in the ring, towering symbols of the faction's rising power, each fresh off demolishing yet another opponent in a brutal show of force. Logan Paul lingered smugly behind them, admiring the destruction as if it were his own creation. Meanwhile, Paul Heyman watched from ringside, not representing Roman Reigns officially, but quietly observing, gathering information, and analyzing every shift in power like a diplomat navigating a battlefield. Breakker's voice filled the arena as he spoke of the Vision's new foundation, a promise to reshape Raw in their image. The message was clear. The Vision believed no one could stop them. But they were wrong, because the first crack in their reign was seconds away. The arena lights shift and tension spikes. As Breakker continued his declaration, the arena lights suddenly flickered, not with the Vision's signature glitching effect, but with a frantic pulse of purple that immediately sent ripples of confusion through the audience. Fans rose from their seats, sensing something extraordinary. The opening riff of Seth Rollins' theme began to play, but before it could even reach full volume, the sound of shattering glass interrupted it, an auditory storm that seemed designed to unsettle the entire faction in the ring. The Vision looked toward the stage, expecting Rollins to appear in dramatic fashion as usual. But for once, the return of Seth freakin' Rollins wasn't theatrical. It was tactical, it was personal, and it was coming from behind them. Seth Rollins erupts from the crowd. From within the sea of fans behind Breakker and Reed, Seth Rollins burst out like a man unleashed. Dressed in black, eyes burning with controlled fury, Rollins wielded a steel chair with a grip that suggested he had rehearsed every swing in his mind for weeks. The crowd exploded as they realized what was happening. Rollins was back, unannounced, unexpected, and completely untethered. Breakker and Reed had no time to prepare. Their mistake was simple. They believed Rollins would return with words. They never considered he'd return with vengeance. Rollins looked like someone who had been pushed too far, framed too often, mocked too loudly, and hunted in his own home. His return wasn't a message, it was a statement. Paul Heyman senses the danger. Immediately, while the fans roared in pure shock, Paul Heyman's reaction stood out. The moment he saw Rollins breaking through the barricade, chair in hand, his eyes widened with something rare, genuine concern. Heyman understood strategy better than almost anyone in WWE, and in that instant he recognized what Rollins represented, an uncontrollable force inserted into an already delicate balance of power. The Bloodline's stability, the Vision's ascent, and Roman Reigns' long-term plans all suddenly felt vulnerable. Rollins wasn't an ally, an enemy, or a pawn. He was a wild card. The chair shot. Heard across the arena. Rollins wasted no time. He swung the chair with surgical accuracy, driving it into Bronson Reed's back with a deafening crack that echoed across the arena. Reed stumbled, pain shooting through him as Rollins immediately shifted focus to Bron Breakker. Breakker threw his arms up instinctively, but the force of Rollins' swing still sent him reeling. The Vision's enforcers were strong, but they weren't ready for someone who had returned with weeks' worth of fury sharpened into a single moment of impact. Rollins dropped the chair and transformed into a whirlwind of strikes, his movements fluid and unrestrained. a whirl of precision, speed, and pure intention. Bronson Reed tried to recover, charging at Rollins with a heavy clothesline, but Rollins ducked effortlessly. With lightning timing, he fired a superkick into Reed's jaw, sending the massive powerhouse staggering backward. The crowd erupted as Rollins pivoted, turning his attention back to Breakker. What followed was a barrage of rapid strikes, hard forearms, body shots, and a sharp knee that left Breakker gasping for breath. Rollins wasn't simply fighting, he was purging weeks of frustration, betrayal, and injustice. Breakker tried to counter, but Rollins cut him off, grabbing him by the head and dragging him toward the ropes. Rollins reclaims the symbol, stolen from him. With Breakker dazed in the center of the ring, Rollins paused only long enough to raise a single finger toward the rafters, a gesture that mirrored, mocked, and reclaimed the signal the masked mystery man once used to taunt him. It was more than symbolism. It was Rollins telling the world he wasn't running from the attacks anymore. He was taking his identity back. Seconds later, Rollins stomped Breakker's head into the mat with a brutal curb stomp that thundered through the arena. The move, once stolen, had been reclaimed with absolute finality. The vision scrambles, but damage is done. Before Bronson Reed could recover, Rollins rolled out of the ring and snatched the chair again, daring Reed to approach him. Reed hesitated, not out of fear but out of shock, because the moment had spiraled too quickly for even a man of his size to regain control. Logan Paul retreated up the ramp, shouting protests that went ignored. Heyman held the top rope, frozen, absorbing the implications of this unexpected rupture in the war. Rollins had done more than attack the Vision. He had shattered the illusion of their invincibility. A message for everyone watching: Rollins didn't stay to celebrate. He didn't wait for a microphone, a camera cue, or a replay. He simply glared at the faction he had just dismantled and walked through the crowd the same way he entered, through the people, fueled by their energy. Fans reached for him, chanting his name, sensing that this return wasn't part of a scripted pattern. It felt raw, reactive, and bursting with the sense that Rollins was stepping into a role far different from the one he left behind. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a villain. He was what the moment required: resistance. The Bloodline's next move becomes unclear. As Rollins disappeared into the sea of fans, Heyman remained ringside, pulling at his tie with the weight of realization. Roman Reigns wanted clarity. He wanted control. Seth Rollins' return injected chaos into the precise calculations he had been monitoring. Would Rollins become an accidental ally to the Bloodline, a rival, a threat, or something far more unpredictable? The question lingered in the air, unanswered and dangerous. The war has officially begun. Back in the ring, Breakker and Reed struggled to regroup as the stunned arena buzzed with disbelief and excitement. This wasn't just an attack. It was a declaration. The Vision had been hit hard for the first time. Someone had fought back without fear, hesitation, or political alignment. Rollins had set fire to the battlefield and walked away before anyone could react. And now, with tensions rising, factions shifting, and alliances uncertain, one truth had become clear. Seth Rollins had rewritten his destiny, and everyone else was now living in the aftermath.